Hi there, and thanks for joining us for the Lawrence SharePoint User Group. This is our monthly October meeting, and we're thrilled to have Suzanne Hunt all the way from New Zealand joining us to share a very important topic, women in technology down under. So we're looking forward to a little bit of a different topic for us and getting to hear something a little bit more personal and close to current events and such. So Suzanne, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, hi everybody. I could say good morning, good afternoon, good day, as my friend Darryl Webster likes to say during his webinar. Yeah, welcome. And I'd like to share my story with everyone today. So as Nate said, I'm from New Zealand. Hang on, let me just, is this going to, there we go, sorry. There we go. So this is what we'll cover today. I'll go through my story, what I've learnt along the way, some ideas that I have around how we can do things better. And it's not just to get women into technology, it's increasing everything, you know, making things a little bit calmer and a little bit more respectful, I guess. And then if you've got any questions, I'd love to hear them as well, and please, you know, enter any questions into the chat and interrupt me along the way. Not a problem at all to do that. So for those of you that haven't seen a map of New Zealand, this is us. We are to the southeast of Australia with a grand total population from the last census of 3.7 million people. Oh, sorry, 4.7 million people. That is in total across the country. Our biggest city is just over 1 million. We're tiny. I happen to live in Hamilton, which is not a big city. It's, oops, not that. Hamilton is about an hour and a half south of Auckland, central North Island. And yes, we are very original. We have a North Island and a South Island. So it's small. Hamilton, we have a population of about 170,000 people. So yeah, you kind of know a lot of people. There's not a lot of space to escape or hide. So it's growing up in and this is the area I grew up in. I actually grew up in Te Awamutu, which down here in the bottom, just south of Hamilton. It's about half hour south, so I haven't actually gone too far in the greater scheme of things, but it's a kind of neat little place. So I grew up on a farm and I used to ride. So my early years and my early career paths were all about horses. And this is not me, by the way. These are just, you know, general images to give you an idea. But this is what I used to do. And I loved it. This is what got me through high school and taught me a lot of really valuable lessons. So going after high school, I thought I wanted to be a vet, which here in New Zealand, there is one vet school. And that's in Palmerston North, which is sort of lower North Island. And to get there, you have to do a introductory course and cover all the basics of chemistry, physics, biology, things like that, cell biology. And then you had to do a submission as to why you wanted to be a vet. And when I did it, there were 253 people applying for 50 spaces. So odds not great, and I missed out, which was fairly tough going. But luckily at the time, I had a job. I was working as a groom for a local rider, and she sat me down and was just like, "Well, that's not the end of the world. Focus on the horses. What do you want to do with that?" And so I stayed at university for another year and a half, trying to study physiology because I thought that was help. But my heart wasn't in it. So I kind of did some bits and pieces. And then, yeah, along came technology. But along that path, I actually did a whole lot of different jobs. So New Zealand is a really agricultural country. I worked as a relief milker, so I went on to different farms and filled in for the farmer and milked their cows for them morning and night. Getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go milk the cows, come home, same thing at night. I worked as a pool cleaner. I was a babysitter, farm worker. I did do some work as a riding instructor. I also worked as a lab technician. I'll get back to that one. And as a groom. Now, the working as a groom was equestrian groom, by the way. That was interesting. I moved to do that. I moved to Sydney, Australia, and the first job I had over there, I worked with polo ponies, and that was on a fantastic, big ranch. Rode horses all day. Got to experience being charged by angry bulls and having a stubborn horse that wouldn't get out of the way. Jumping over gates and learning bravery was a key one with that one. It's like standing your ground and facing down the monster that's coming towards you. Then from that job, I went to the Hunter Valley, which was just slightly north of Sydney. And once again, I was working with an event writer, and that was another challenging role where Chris the writer, he was great. His mother was slightly psycho. Out in the middle of the hot Sydney sun, I would be out cutting down prickly pears, which, if you don't know, prickly pears are kind of like a cactus, and like, if those spikes get you, they can get infected quite quickly. But the lesson I learned from that job was resilience. But I only learned that afterwards, after I'd run away. Like, I literally had enough of the mother, and I called someone I knew to come and pick me up, and I left a note. And I actually feel really bad about that now, but at the time, that was the only way I could see to escape. And then from there, I landed what I consider one of the highlights of my career. And it's my career full stop. I know I work in technology now, but I got to work as a groom for Stuart Tinney, who is a member or was a member of the Australian Olympic team. So I learned about planning, and I learned more about resilience, and I learned about hard work and being consistent, and about being pedantic about the details. Now, Stuart, he was a hard but fair boss. We would be up at 6 in the morning feeding the horses, getting them ready. We'd have a small break to go and have breakfast, and then he would be out riding from 9, and we'd go right through to lunchtime. And then in the afternoon, we had all the farm work that needed to be done, and then wrapping up at night. And so it was 6 days a week, 11, 12-hour days. But the payoff was Stuart made the Australian Olympic team for the Sydney 2000 Olympics. And even better, he won an Olympic gold. So when I say that's been one of my highlights, to say that you are part of the team that helped win Olympic gold is one hell of a feeling. It was really an awesome experience. So after that, I was kind of left wondering what to do. And I had met someone online. It was early days of the internet. And so I took a trip to Philadelphia to go and have a meet and greet. And while I was there, I was introduced to a doctor who gave medical evidence in lawsuits. And he needed someone to just go around to all university libraries and scan and photocopy a whole bunch of research papers and load them onto his computers. And he had probably 5 computers all hooked up together. And while I was there, I managed to work out how those computers talk to each other and making it just operate like as it should. And it was him that sort of said to me, well, when you get back to New Zealand, why don't you study computer science? He says, you seem to have a bit of an understanding. So that's what I did. I went, and so I've now been doing this for 15 years. And a basic rundown, I started with Gribble's veterinary pathology. I was IT support there. Well, they called it the IT manager, but it was IT support. DTSL, Desktop Technology Services Limited. I was a field engineer. Go out, travel around the countryside, fix things. And there was a lesson that I learned at DTSL on day 2 that I will never forget. And that is, when you have a new staff member, don't leave them alone. Day 2, at lunchtime, everybody in the office disappeared. And I was left on my own with nothing to do all afternoon. I ended up occupying myself by trying to read through all the documentation I could find and learn about the customers, but there was nobody there to give me any guidance. And I got home that day, and as I walked through the front door, just burst into tears because it was just that stressful and such a terrible experience. And I lasted about 9 months in that job. Went from there to fire security, and fire security services looked after all of the IT there. Some of these quotes that you can see underneath came from some of these jobs that were given to me. When I started at fire security, the CFO started off by just go, can you just do the minutes? So even though they wanted an IT manager, they saw me as a secretary. And because I didn't know how to deal with that at the time, I did it. I spent months sitting in on all of their meetings and doing the minutes, and in the background still doing all the IT manager stuff and keeping all the systems running, but they didn't see that. They just saw me as that girl that did the minutes. And that was quite frustrating. So I did do myself out of a job there. I worked with a service provider, and we got all the servers upgraded. We got the network upgraded to the point where it didn't actually require a full-time person looking after the network. So I was sitting, by the end of my time there, I was sitting doing next to nothing at my desk. So I moved on, and that was where I went to Imatech, and that was a whole lot of fun. That was, once again, traveling around, going to different clients, having learnt from working at DTSL. I was I thought a lot more confident in my approach. But then, not long after I'd started there, I got this comment: the customer doesn't want you back. I was like, they don't have any confidence in your ability. I had been there for an hour. And that just shook me as well. And more so was the fact that my manager, who the customer had made that comment to, didn't have my back. He didn't question it. He didn't dig into it, like, because he sort of said to me, and he probably didn't realize what he was saying. It was like, after he told me, it was just like, it's probably because you're a girl. These things matter. These later jobs, they've been a lot better. It's been hard, but I've had customers, and not just customers, I've had so many people kind of go, well, start a greeting with, hey guys, and I know everybody does it, but remember that language, what you say, matters. Because I loved a point that I saw raised a little while ago. It's like, how would men, or the people who kind of brush off the hey guys comment, how would they feel if everyone was just like started saying, hey girls, and have us kind of brushing it off and kind of going, oh yeah, when we say hey girls, it means everybody. Language matters. I had a recruitment consultant tell me that my client doesn't think you would fit the team. It was because I was a girl. They were a team full of guys, and it was just no. They did not want a girl coming in. And once that bottom one, hi love, did we draw the short straw? I know the guy was trying to be funny, and but when you walk in and that's the first thing they say to you, it really, really smarts. So, what are we to do? We need more visibility. So here in New Zealand, this is what people see IT people as. Stuff Fiber is a company that, this is a current ad that is on TV. This is what they are saying our help desks look like. It's, yes, there's a couple of girls there, but it's not attractive to girls to come into. This middle picture is Damo. We have a show here called Shortland Street. It's been going on for 20 years. It's a 7 o'clock soap. It's quite popular. He's the IT guy. This is what people see as IT. It's often this is what families are watching together, and what they see as IT. And of course, a lot of you probably recognise Garcia, Penelope Garcia from Criminal Minds. Criminal Minds is a massively popular TV show here. I have to say personally, I'm a little bit disappointed after this current upcoming season, but that's beside the point. But we need more visibility. We need to see more people getting into the industry. We need to see more respected women doing it. So some of my heroes, we got Dr. Michelle Dickinson, New Zealand lady. She's originally from England. She's also known as Nano Girl. When you get this presentation, watch this TED Talk. This is my first introduction to Michelle, and she's just amazing. She's no longer working at Auckland University and doing nanotechnology research. She now spends her time traveling around to schools and introducing kids, and in particular young girls, to the world of science and technology and making it seem a whole lot more attractive. Dr. Sue Black. I don't know if anyone's heard of Sue. English lady. She is famous for saving Bletchley Park. Now, Bletchley Park was the centre for cryptography during the war, and she ran a massive campaign to save that. She's also come through a lot of adversity. She came through an abusive marriage, was homeless, raised kids, and that was all before she got her doctorate. After she got away from her husband and then went to university, studied, and is now professor. She is amazing. And also next year she is running for the Mayor of London. So she is using her knowledge, her background, her swagger to have an impact. And then Dr. Susie Wiles, she's a microbiologist here in New Zealand. She was one of the finalists for New Zealander of the Year last year. She is a great communicator, and she is another one that is fantastic at encouraging anyone to get into science and technology and to try. Just try. And be brave. No, we don't want that to start playing. So, but what about us? What can we do? So this is just some examples of some tweets that have all come up just in the last couple months about what people can do. Paul Woods, he owns Adopt and Embrace, which is a Office 365 adoption company in Australia. He is a great ally. He is very much, like, as you can see, he pushed back on 2 sessions where they were originally all male panelists, and he was just like, no, we need to do better. So this is what business owners can do. They can also be a little bit more inclusive in who they hire. Do we need to make it so hard to get into the industry? There's a lot of women who, I think, they start off in one career, they go and have kids, and then they're sort of like, well, I kind of like technology, but I don't know how to get into it, and they don't want to spend 3 years studying, or 4 years to get a degree, So surely we can do something. What about a 6-month stint? What about some online courses? What about business owners taking a chance on someone and training on the job? The encouraging, being inclusive. There's a great saying that I've heard about diversity and inclusion. And there's a great big focus on it, and what I've heard is diversity is being invited to the dance. Inclusiveness is being invited onto the dance floor. So it's what you can do, what everybody can do is invite everybody onto the dance floor. Get people's opinions. Get people's thoughts on how to do something. This is why inclusiveness and diversity is so important, because you've heard my background. What I bring from going through, growing up on a farm, working with the horses, everything like that, shapes what I think and how I approach things, which is very different from someone who grew up in the city and had to work 2 jobs or whatever just to get by. They bring something that is equally as valuable but very different. So this is what we need to do. And social media, social media can be so powerful, but it can be so nasty. That's why I put this other picture up. When two women are chatting on Twitter, we have the big shadowy guys behind us looking over our shoulders and wanting to mansplain everything. Just check yourselves. Do you have to do that? Are you that threatened by two women having a chat about potentially something that might upset you that you just have to interrupt? And I think one of the best things I've seen, and it only came out over the last couple of days, and so I haven't actually put a link up here, is I don't know if everyone's sort of heard all the fuss about Ellen DeGeneres being friends with George Bush. She's faced a lot of backlash because, heaven forbid she went to a game and sat next to George Bush and, oh no, they were laughing together. How could Ellen, a liberal, feminist, lesbian, be friends with a conservative, Republican George Bush? But her response was the best thing I've seen. It was like, I don't care that people are different to me. I'm friends for them for who they are. And that's what we can do better. Not just, one in our businesses and with our workmates and, but with people in general. It's just accept people for who they are. So long as they're not hurting anybody, so long as they're not breaking the law, does it matter? So, it was kind of a short one today, but for anyone who's interested in Michelle or Susie or Sue, there's their links. Does anyone have any questions or comments or feedback?
Thank you so much, Suzanne. And people who are tuned in, if you'd like to ask any questions via the chat panel or the questions panel, we're watching both of those. Also, if you have questions afterward, if you signed up for this, then you'll get a link to the recording, and there should be our social media information there if you'd like to engage afterward. Suzanne, I was really interested personally in your start in working with horses. I don't know if it's where I'm from or what, but I grew up in Iowa, and I feel like that's a farmy kind of place. But it's just fascinating to hear, that's where you got your start, and that led you to tech.
I know. I mean, my parents didn't get a computer until I was 15. So I did not grow up with technology. I personally didn't get a cell phone until I was 22. So it's not. I'm not a native techie. I didn't grow up with it. So my natural inclinations is still towards the animals. Like I still love horses. The only reason I stopped following the horses was because I had a particularly nasty accident. I was doing cross country, and my horse, who I adore, he's no longer with me, but we were galloping along. We had a nice big log in front of us, and he just didn't take off. He just ran straight to the log, and so my lower leg was trapped between his shoulder and the log while I went over the log. And while I didn't break any bones, I did snap my posterior cruciate ligament. I stretched my anterior cruciate. I had a 3/4 tear of my anterior cruciate ligament, and my medial ligament, which is the one on the inside of your knee, was stretched beyond repair. So I spent a little while in rehab after that. and I tried writing, but it was just too painful. So yeah, I had to give up after that.
Man, sounds awful.
It was tough, but yeah, it was the risk you take, and you know, and having a sport like that.
Suzanne, what would you say if you could go back and do anything differently in your career in tech so far? What would you do, or what would you recommend to people just getting started in tech who may be experiencing some of the same kind of marginalization and discrimination that you went through?
Talk to people. Find someone in your team that you connect with. At a personal level. It doesn't need to become a big deal, but just having someone in the team who you can go and have a coffee with and just and vent, or just talk through what you're going through, because there's a real problem, I think, and it's particularly with women, and please, anybody out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's getting better. But in the earlier days, in order to make headway in tech, women had to become a lot like men and become hardened, and otherwise we were seen as soft, and you kind of became a bit of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really no need to do that anymore. Well, there shouldn't have been the need to do it in the first place, but just to find your way, and in order to cope, sort of like you're switching off those emotions just to get by is never healthy. So if you can find someone to talk to, and it only needs to be one person, and it doesn't even need to be in your team, but it does help.
Mm-hmm.
Heather Newman, great lady of the tech community, runs Creative Mavens, does her own podcast. She's doing a really good series at the moment on her blog about the lizard brain. And it's all about coping with dealing with all of this in the workplace. And that was one of her suggestions as well, was finding someone, someone that you can talk to.
Awesome. Suzanne, would you say you're where you want to be as far as your tech path goes, or what's next for Suzanne?
Oh, no, there's more. I am enjoying what I'm doing. Working for Spark, my current employers. I've been here for 2.5 years. They are probably the best employers I've had. I think, I've just moved into a senior systems analyst role, having come from systems admin, sort of, real engineering type. But next, I'd like to sort of carry on my path down kind of an architectural type role. So where I go from hands-on, doing the do, to more high-level design and consultancy, and then having someone else do the do for the most part.
Like that. Suzanne, what would you say, what's kind of driving behind that desire? Like, what motivates you?
I think part of it is because I just love the rapid change that we've got going on with Office 365. I know a lot of people hate that, but I think with the energy and drive that Microsoft have put into the product and the rate of change, we need people to stay across the board, across all the changes, what's coming up, and be able to almost act like the virtual CIO or that consultancy type thing. Like, hey, this is coming up. This is where we need to be planning and heading over the next sort of like 6 months. Mm-hmm. Because the way things are going, you can't really plan more than 6 months ahead, really.
Right.
Because things keep changing so quickly, and all these, all of a sudden, something you might be working on now and think you're going to have in 6 months is going to change, like the licensing changes that they've just announced.
Oh yes.
They're so kind of them to give us a month's notice on that one.
All the time.
All the time, but yeah, that's the drive. Is like, I mean, I love change. I think it's healthy. I think it's needed, and not just in technology, but for me, but in the world in general. I mean, especially the way the world's happening at the moment, we need rapid change. So if we can just do our little part in the world of technology, we can show everyone else that we can still make rapid change.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so it doesn't look like we have any questions in the panel here. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank you. Oh, we do have one here. Hold on. Let's see. So we have Christine Gallick joining us. She recommends the latest episode, number 7 of Clear and Vivid podcast. Are you familiar with that, Suzanne?
No, I'm not.
Okay, it's let's see, twitter.com. So the handle is ALANALDA. So I'll tweet that out so we can share that as well.
No,
So
I listen to a lot of podcasts, so that's the more the merrier. Thank you very much, Christine.
Oh, she says it's hosted by Alan Alda. Very cool.
Oh, cool.
So you did mention the Mavens podcast by Heather Newman. What other resources would you say that you've run into that have been really helpful, whether it's an individual or a podcast or even like a blog or something? What's a good resource for people who can go and share experiences and read about others that you found?
Sure. So definitely the tech community. So there's a whole like the Microsoft tech community site is extremely broad, but there is a whole diversity and inclusion community within there. And Kathy Moyer, who she I think oversees the lot. I mean, there's a bunch of other people, but Kathy is an inspiration as well. She's pretty amazing. As far as keeping up with tech, I mentioned Daryl Webster earlier. He is part of Regarding 365. They have a great blog that covers so many different things, and he does a weekly webcast and they've just started a podcast from using the same show, just around what's come up in the message center over the last week. So that's an incredible resource as well. They do put it up on YouTube, so there's backstories that you could go to. Another one that's useful, I mean, there's a whole bunch of tech stuff that is really useful. Shane Young, I find incredibly useful. Greg Melford, another one. April Dunham, Laura, what's Laura's surname?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Wondering Laura on Twitter.
Yeah. You know, Laura, it's Laura. You know? Everybody knows Laura.
That's right. Just gets the first name.
Yeah. She's the tech community's Madonna. You know?
I love it. We'll have to let her know.
But yeah, I mean, I think the more people.
Christine says it's Rogers, Laura Rogers.
Thank you. Yes. But yeah, the more people talk about their experiences, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on Twitter, the better. I think, and share, like, not just the good. Actually, I gave a talk about this time last year to the local university Young Engineers Society about same topic, women in tech, and it took me 10 years to get my university degree. It wasn't a solid 10 years. I was in and out and that, but the best feedback I got from that talk was that people appreciated sharing the struggles. So often you hear people's stories and it's kind of like, oh, I did this and this, and they're such a superstar, and everything just came so easily when it probably didn't.
Mm-hmm.
People want to know that the struggles that they're facing, someone else has been through. And you got through them and are actually doing all right. So that's where sharing our stories is useful. It's like it's not easy. Life isn't easy.
Mm-hmm.
So sharing our stories and sharing what happens to us makes it easier.
It's kind of a conversation we're seeing more in tech, is that, we're so much more than just smart tech people who can do a few things, but behind that, there are families, there's mental health issues, there's all kinds of things that we're afraid to talk about, or that we've been taught not to because of just stigmas that are out there.
Exactly.
But I totally agree with you. You have to share your story, and you never know when someone's going through something rough where your one tweet or your one email might change everything for them that day.
Exactly. It's and if you see someone at work who just seems a bit off their game, just go and check on them. Don't make a fuss. Just check in on them. Everything all right? You're off your game. Can I help you with anything? You never know where that's going to lead.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again so much, Suzanne. It's always great to talk to you, and I really appreciated this topic. It was, like I said in the beginning, kind of a departure from our normal technical topics, and I was really excited that you submitted it. And I do hope that we'll have you again, and we can have more topics kind of down this line. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's joining us live and later through the recording. We look forward to having you again next month.
Thanks, everyone.